This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. All right, friends, this is the Festival Pass Stories podcast, presented, as always, by Dos Hombres, the award-winning artisanal mezcal. I love to say award-winning. It's meant to be shared, though, so don't buy a bottle and have it yourself. You can, but there's a program that we're going to introduce you to, so share it with friends. And my guest today is going to be very excited because he's going to be sharing that with some people at his festival. There's your tease. It is, of course, created by Aaron Paul, Brian Cranston, and Mezcalario Gregorio Velasco. Couldn't do it without him. And the great village of San Luis del Rey in Oaxaca. So have a drink with us at doshombres.com/delivery. And if you want to get some merch, you can get some at doshombres.com, merch.doshombres.com. And have you ever wanted that opportunity to invest in a product early that could be the next Airbnb? I am always intrigued. Tell me more. Learn why entrepreneurs and celebrities with exits approaching 10 billion have already invested in Festival Pass. Go to invest.festivalpass.com to learn more, or just Google it. And my guest today knows a thing or two about that pre-mentioned mezcal and other beverages because he is the co-founder of the Del Mar Wine and Food Festival. Wine before food, always. I think is it wine before liquor? Always. Anyway, wine before food, wine and food festival. And you probably recognize him from the Food Network, if you are watching and not listening to this, as the host and judge on Guy's Grocery Games, Iron Chef, Best Thing I Ever Ate, and so many others. Please welcome Troy Johnson. Troy, what's happening, my man?
You got to give me a minute. I'm investing in this thing called Festival Pass. I just logged on.
We would not want to stop you from investing in Festival Pass.
Yep. I'm doing well. I mean, the fact that you just promoted me to the host of Guy's Grocery Games.
Yes. Guy would be the host.
Do you realize that one time I said mispronounced his name on national television? We're talking about Guy Fieri, and I said, Fieri. And if you don't hit that R right, all kinds of hijinks and hells come at you, and there's bats come out of the ground, and trolls and goblins, and he's kind of controlling all of them, and he sends them your way in a jocular manner. But he did that for about the next year and tormented me. So I have been a judge on that show though for 10 years, man.
Wow,
I know.
Amazing. Fieri. Yes, that's your verbal warm up before the show. It's not like how now brown cow. It's Fieri, and
it is Fieri. I can't believe he still lets me on his show. The first time I ever met him, I want to make this all about him.
Why not? It is the Guy I'll ride those coattails. Podcast.
Yeah, I'll ride those coattails as long as I told him once, and I'm like, I'm riding your coattails for years. I'm like, and they are surprisingly durable. There's no holes in them at all.
No, because they have flames on the end of them. All those coattails, right? They're
this
cool
is true.
Flame
they're flame retardant, I'm sure.
Yeah.
First time I ever met Guy, I'm a food critic. That's the only job that they give a writer about food. If you want any kind of job that has a paycheck attached to it, that's the biggest space in any magazine or publication. So you become a critic. I never actually really liked being a critic, to be quite honest with you. But anyways, Guy, right before I was invited to come on Guy's Grocery Games, I'd had my own show on Food Network. It was canceled, and it was probably a good call. And they said, do you want to try this new show we're doing with Guy Fieri? I'd never met him before. 2 weeks before then, he'd gotten really harsh review in the New York Times. It's so harsh that I didn't even know I was going to work with Guy, and somebody sent it to me as a food critic, and they said, what do you think about this? I said, I think it's absolute total bullshit. It's a character assassination of a human being. I don't care what you think. It's just not nice. You shouldn't use that power to do that. Anyways.
Yeah. The critic in you came out.
I criticized the critic. I was like, the critic should never done this. So anyways, I get this call. I'm sitting in my trailer. I'm meditating because I'm just trying to get my nerves under control. I'm like, all right, you've already had one show canceled, Troy. Let's just not get kicked off on the first day. All right. And so I get a knock on the trailer door, and they go, hey, Guy would like to meet you. And I go, Oh, okay. So I walk into his trailer, I open the
This is
door.
day
There's
one
Guy
of
Fieri.
filming. This is day one of
This is
filming.
day
the
one
show.
of filming. This is the pilot
This is the
of
pilot.
Guy's Grocery Games. So I mean, we are in an LA grocery store, and we've rented it out for the price of Jeff Bezos's soul per day. And it's nuts. And so I'm pretty intimidated. Meditation really helps. So I'm meditating. I get interrupted. I'm going to the guy's trailer first. That's you first see him, right? And seeing Guy Fieri come to life, it's like seeing a cartoon character come to life, because they don't say that in a cartoonish or like demeaning way of him. It's just because he's a
character.
Such an iconic character that I'm like, oh my God, I wanted to pinch his cheeks. I wanted to feel his teeth. You're like, you have real hair. That's real. Do you put it on something? And I got a hutch when you sleep. Oh my God, you're a real human being. And so he looks at me, he goes, you just gotten this bad review, like so bad that he had to go on the Today Show. The Today Show was like the New York Times did a massively bad review of you. This was
was this about his restaurant, his Times Square restaurant?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
That.
So he was not happy. And again, I wasn't happy. I thought it was a total jerk. Can I cuss on this?
You can. We might have to bleep a few things out, but go for it.
So it was a total jerk move. I mean, I just didn't like it being associated with that kind of criticism. Anyways, he goes, I heard you're a food critic. He's like, I hate food critics. He just had a terrible experience. The man was like, you're kind are just evil, like mean people. And I'm looking at him. I go, I understand that. I kind of hate myself sometimes too, but the greatest thing was he goes, I heard you're kind of funny. You got one shot, man. And so I think I'm fired. I'm like, okay, well, this guy obviously the network is foisting on him. I'm like the stowaway in this guy's career now, the lead weight that he's got to, like really release in order to take off. I mean, he'd probably take off with it, even if I was like, 4 times as bad as I am and connected to him, because he's just kind of a skyrocket. Anyways, the point is, I think I'm fired. So I go on the show. And I let loose. I was so loose because I thought my career was done. I'm dropping F-bombs. I am just telling bad jokes. I'm just letting loose the way I would not have, because I didn't think I was ever coming back. And at some point he chuckled, and he goes, all right, I like you, and we've been together now, 10 years. I've done over 150 episodes. But I mean, I entered my first day as, really with wet pants.
And as the food critic, I can't get everything that you've done into the intro. We are supposed to keep it semi-brief so we can use this in the content of the show. But you're also the co-owner and chief content officer of San Diego Magazine. I love the piece that you guys did on Ron Burgundy and the Channel 4 news team. Very in depth. But,
absolutely.
I mean, about the fashions and everything. Yes, of course. But what are you a food critic as well in the magazine?
It's interesting. I am because we took this over, and I've been the food critic for 11 years, and I've always been very honest about any kind of experience. I'm not a bully. I don't use that pulpit to squash the dreams of moms and pops. These are real human beings with dreams. I'm like, no way. You don't do that. You can be honest and say, that chicken was a little hammered, but you can do it in a way that's funny. And I've always admired writers like David Sedaris, David Foster Wallace, Joan Didion, that sort of thing. I've always been drawn to humor, and that's kind of how I made my name. I also got a poetry degree, and a speech communications degree as the least employable college graduate in 500 years. But the point of that being is that we decided to take this on because we believed in social media. And there's a whole story behind this of, during the pandemic, when everything quit, I woke up to 500 restaurateurs saying help, and I didn't know what to do. And I opened up my Instagram and I just sat there with them live every night for a year. And we just said, what are you cooking? How are you doing? We cried together. We laughed together. We did everything else. And I said, what can people order right now? And I used my platform that I gotten through, or not earned, maybe, lucked into on Food Network, and to really drive people to these restaurants before PPP. So, and I would get emails the next day, and I'm not trying to paint myself out to be a saint, because so many people did so much more impactful shit that I did. It was the only thing I could do. Right. And
but that's what everybody did. Everybody did their little thing. Right. I mean, I was an auctioneer, and we started calling charities and saying, let's work together. We can raise money virtually. You need money for your budget. We can do it. We'll make it fun somehow, even though we're all in these little boxes on Zoom or whatever. And we did.
Terrified. Yeah.
We're like, let's try it. I mean, it's the worst that can happen.
That's what it can. Yeah, that's what a community is, right? So I mean, I would get emails from people saying like, you may have just saved my, I don't know, may have saved my business because we didn't know what
Yeah.
was happening. Like we got
How cool is
thousands of
that?
dollars of orders, and the point of it all being is that I've been traveling doing national TV for years and years and years, and telling stories across the country. I have another show called Big Ten Campus Seats on the Big Ten Network, and then I would come home and tell some stories. This was the most impactful thing that I ever did in my life. I was telling the stories of people that lived down the street. I could see these people. I could walk into their room, meet them as real human beings,
Yeah.
And my wife said, I've never seen you so happy, telling these stories, and I said, she actually brought up the idea of buying San Diego Magazine. It was during the pandemic. Media was all supposed to die a grisly death. And I said, I think that's nuts. I think it's a little bit insane, but let's kick the tires on it. And we did. We took it over a year and a half ago. She was 9.5 months pregnant. We walked into an office, a lawyer's office in the middle of the desert, and it smelled like carpet and dead people. And we signed the papers to take over a regional media company.
You just
coming out of a global pandemic. And
sorry, hold on one second. You just froze up. Can you say that last like 2 sentences again? Like when you said,
sure.
We come out right from like, you're like, we come out of the lawyer's office.
Yeah. So we go into this lawyer's office and she's 9.5 months pregnant and it smells like carpet and dead people. And we signed the papers to become the new owners of San Diego Magazine, which is a regional media company. And the week after that, we give birth to our son. So we not only we have to rebuild an entire pretty iconic media company in San Diego from the bones up. Like I'm digging in the carcass and spitting out the bad bones and keeping the good ones. And we have to do this and we have a baby the week after. Don't ever do that. Change your name, break both your legs, move to Mexico, whatever you need to do. Just don't follow that current.
Don't do it all at once. All of these crazy life changes.
Dear God. So we do all this. So anyways, that's why we took it over, was to like tell the stories of a city, not just food, but that's where I could bring my expertise and I could do what I do for Food Network here in San Diego. So that's basically what we've been able to do. Is we just got the big award shows last night for all the journalism throughout the county, and we won like best social media, best digital. We turned it into a digital media company because we're telling those kind of Food Network vignettes. I hired somebody that makes a video look like Chef's Table, and we're telling the stories of San Diego's food scene. And then the idea of all that, coming back to it all, is that we're going to do a video summer series of the people and the places and the things that I've loved over 16 years of covering food in San Diego, and tell their stories in kind of hopefully an artful HBO, Vice, Chef's Table way, and then bring them all to the same field over 2 days with a lot of my Food Network friends. And, Brian Cranston and Aaron Paul are going to be there during the week. And, Dos Hombres is going to be present. We've got Rob Machado, professional surfer, involved. Drew Brees is going to do a pickleball tournament. We got, NFL quarterback. It's amazing. Yeah. So bring the stories to life, I guess. You tell stories. That's what you do for, a living. And this festival is just a way to bring them to life. We tell them in video, we tell them in writing, and then the best way to form a community, the best way to actually build a culture is to get those people that you tell those stories about in front of another human being. Look them in the eyes, see their skin, see their, that sounds really creepy. But really
touch. You didn't say touch their skin. You just said see it. You're not like feel.
I didn't say lotion the skin.
Yeah, no. Just put the lotion in the basket. No, nothing like that, folks. He's talking about just human interactions and coming out of this craziness of what we went through for, some places were in it for like 5 minutes and they're like, this is nonsense. Other places were in it for like 2 years. Other places are still coming out of it. But yes, it's that human interaction that we missed so much. So see the skin. Yeah.
That with festivals. Really at the end of the day, like that's what it's about. It's about bringing that experience, that story to life, bringing all the best chefs in San Diego and Southern California to that same stretch of grass, which we got really lucky. No one's ever been able to throw an event on this stretch of grass. It's right by the ocean. It looks like Coachella by the sea. I call it the Mona Lisa of lawns because there's a very wealthy neighborhood around it, and they have not wanted a big party thrown there. And we have friends that live in the neighborhood, and we do it very respectfully. And our partners are the Polo Fields guys. It's called Surf Sports Park now. But the point is, bring the entire city and my friends to this, from Food Network to this grass, and throw a massive raising of a city. Like that chef, right over that cook, that drink maker. This is a person that lives down the street, is helping make a city's food scene cool. And San Diego wasn't always cool. Now it is.
Well, you know what? That's something I wanted to say, because it seems like these days, San Francisco has their issues. LA has their issues.
Mhm.
And Sacramento is still a part of California. But the point is that San Diego seems to be the shining star of California. It seems that's where people want to be. Orange
It's
County doing well, San Diego doing very well. There's so many things that draw people to San Diego, but what do you think draws people to the food scene of San Diego?
I mean, well, look, for decades, we were just the tourist cup of California, right? Do you want that in the shape of Shamu? You want that? And it was just, tourist trap after
SeaWorld.
tourist trap,
Yeah.
right? It was
Right.
like,
And then everyone's like, get rid of
calamari.
SeaWorld.
That's it.
Then it's like, we're like, but that's what we have in San Diego. We have the Padres, we have the SeaWorld, and no football team wants to stay here. Why do they want to leave?
The Clippers.
If I were the Chargers.
Ago.
Yeah, if I were the Chargers or the Clippers, I would beg to be back in San Diego.
And that's, it's interesting because having covered, I was born and raised in San Diego. The city's always meant a lot to me. And I as a writer and as somebody, who's been on national TV now I've been on for 13 years. So, and every agent, every smarter person that gave a damn about me said, you got to leave. You got to go to New York. You got to go to LA if you want any chance at all. And I said, look, I've seen every single creative friend that I've encountered in the last decade leave San Diego to go to Portland, Austin, New York, LA, whatever it may be. And I'm like, if every single person who has a dream and any ounce of talent did that in their cities are going to suck in perpetuity. I do not want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of building up the culture of where I'm from, of giving. And if I can hire one creative at San Diego Magazine now, we're building up our staff. We've got an amazing creative team, and if I can hire one creative, I've done something good for the city. I've kept that creative brain drain from flowing out with the bath toys, So but San Diego for the longest time was when I covered it. I've been covering it now since I graduated, which was, I don't know, 75 years ago. And
look, what's your skin regimen? Because that is impressive. And you look,
the skin regimen is, and I was working with a makeup artist on Guy's Grocery Games, and she looked at me and she goes, you are the greasiest human being I've ever worked on. And I'm like, thanks.
You're like, you're in the food business? Like, what are these burger bashes and stuff? Like, those are the greasy people.
I basically had aioli coming out of my skin.
Yeah. Garlic aioli.
Yeah, garlic, exactly.
The best aioli.
That's why, even though you've lived a little bit of a hard life, I smoked it for a long part of my life. I've known to like my whiskey and my mezcal. And she said that's why you don't look like you're 165 years old. It's because you have Olay coming out of your skin for your whole life. But to get back to that's the skin regimen. To get back to the point of that you asked me, San Diego was not there for years and years and years. And in 2019. That's when it really started to come. And I think there's many reasons why. More small farms per capita than anywhere in the United States. The reason we have the best soil, the best food in the world, some of it is grown right here, and a ton of it. So food can only be as good as the ingredients. One of the best chefs in San Diego, he was Daniel Boulud. He's a famous French chef. He was Daniel Boulud's right-hand man for decades. And he said every time he got a box of produce in at Danielle or Bar Boulud in New York, it said San Diego on the side of the box. And he was from San Diego. He goes, all right, it's time for me to move home because that's where the best food is. So that's one. Two, adjacency to Baja, right? Baja is awesome. I mean, we are one California. Like, we see Mexico and San Diego as one super region. I'm 25 minutes from the border walking out of my house, and there's great food. There's the Valle de Guadalupe wine region down there where you've got a Michelin star chef cooking under pine trees out in the open with smoke and goggles. And it's amazing. And that influence has come up and kind of created like this nice, over the fence, camaraderie of, of really sharing ideas on how to cook. I mean, they really taught us some ancient techniques, which are huge now. You think about your favorite foods are probably all wood smoked and ash and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so 2019, we were there. I mean, it was the first time I ever saw Michelin come here. First time I ever saw the Beard House, James Beard Foundation start to come to San Diego. I was getting emails from the New York Times. I was getting emails from all these people. I'm like, whoa, you guys, I've been covering this for 15 years. The first time you guys are actually showing up is we're about ready to take off. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. So it took us a couple of years to get it back to it. But San Diego's food scene is absolutely here, and the culture is here. And once people could kind of work hybrid, they're like, where do you want to work? Somewhere that's 275 days of sunshine right next to the beach, and real close adjacency to Baja California, where you can go on drive your car, point it south, and find yourself on a nameless beach in 200 miles.
Cool surf spot that no one's ever been to before. All those kind of things.
Exactly.
So take me back for a second. What was your first experience in food where it got you to a point where you were like, this is something where, I don't have to be a chef to do this for a living, but I can be involved in this like big business of food?
Well, the funniest thing about my journey into food is I wrote about music for the first 10, 12 years of my life. I wrote for Rolling Stone, like one little wee thing for Rolling Stone, a lot for Spin Magazine, Paper Magazine, Paste, all that. And I was the music editor for the Alt Weekly in San Diego. I would get 300 CDs across my desk a month. Internet radio was not yet a thing. So the only thing was me writing about it and mainstream radio, which could only pay 1% of the 300 CDs I got. So there was this magical... The first 80% of that was absolute garbage, but there's this magical 80 to 99%, which were like TV on the radio and Peaches and Cursive and Brandy Carlisle. And so I convinced a new news studio to let me come in, hang a black curtain, bring in audio equipment, and have these touring bands, punk bands on in this new news. The people get off with their perfect hair and perfect teeth, the anchors. And then here come me looking like CBGB, looking like Last Night, and I'd have, I had Maroon 5's first ever television performance was on the new news studio here in San Diego. So I wrote about yeah. You can actually look it up. It's called Fox Rocks. Go Fox Rocks. I hated the name. Didn't name it. It's foisted on me. But
Adam Levine only had 73 tattoos at that point, people.
Yes.
It was a long time ago.
He was so beautiful. I mean, that man's voice. And that man's voice, we were in a dinky little studio, and I was like, it sounded like he was in Rick Rubin's place. It was amazing. I wasn't even a fan of the music, but I was like, God, that's a brilliantly talented man. But anyways, the economy crashed in 2008, and I had to take a job at a fancy magazine that, was all one of those luxury publications with skinny women who just need just a little bit of food on the cover.
Yeah. One of those oversized publications I find in my hotel room if I'm staying at the right W hotel, right? One of those places. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they were like, it just had people that just needed a snack on the cover, and so they said to me, they're like, you're going to have to write about food. And I was like, look, man, I write about punk rock, hip hop, indie rock, and art. I don't want to write.
They're not serving gourmet cuisine at CBGB's and all these places, folks. Sorry to tell you.
I know. I'm like, a tequila popper, a carne asada burrito at 2 a.m. Yes, that was me. I knew nothing about food. And I genuinely, my first instinct was screw food. I don't want to write about it. It sounds like a pretentious thing that only people with soft sweaters discussing microgreens around an Aspen timeshare fire feature. And I was like, this sounds terrible and pretentious. And so I, of course, was very honest about it. I said, yes, I would love to write about food because I need a job terribly. And I fell in love with it. I didn't realize at the time I was just ignorant. I went into my tiny little apartment in San Diego in Golden Hill, and I read every single cookbook known to man. And I made flashcards. Thousands and thousands and thousands. I looked like A Beautiful Mind, that movie, or like any kind of hoarding situation.
It's just all over the windows and everything.
It was. It was insane. My friends would come over and be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm becoming a food person.
You're like Carrie in Homeland off her meds. You're just like, I can figure this out. It's Brody. It's this. And you're like, well, that's me. That's me.
That was exactly it. So I can still name this the national dish of Jamaica, saltfish and a key, because of that. And so I studied and studied and studied. And there was a guy that wrote for the publication that had got a James Beard Award for food writing, and he was training me. He didn't let me write about it for 3 years. And then the thing, I fell in love with, like, everything about food is that you can find culture, religion, ecology, history. Yeah. Everything through one plate of food. It's not about food. Sure, we can talk about salt, fat, and acid and heat all you want. And I know when something is cooked well now. I've been doing it for 15 years, but at the end of the day, what I'm most interested in is that when behind that is at a first, like a screwball whiskey. Let's put it that way. The peanut butter whiskey that everybody knows about, they're San Diego. Yeah. They formed about 50 yards. I can point at them right now. 50 yards that way is the bar that they formed at when they were just doing Jameson whiskey and peanut butter whey protein. And it was the best shot in San Diego. Well, the story behind that shot is that that's a first generation American who they fled the Khmer Rouge. His grandparents were shot by the Khmer Rouge. They lived in refugee camps for 6 years, were routinely bombed by the Khmer Rouge army, the Red Brigade, and they would go underground into bunkers when they would get bombed, all the kids in the refugee camps. And he developed polio because of that, because those closed, poorly ventilated areas, and polio is not eradicated throughout the world. They barely made it to the United States. They were sponsored by somebody in my neighborhood. They lived in their car, the parents and three brothers, and they finally got a job at a donut shop, moved into a garage, and they had no running water. Peanut butter was one of the only things that really was like their taste of American freedom and a new life. Yeah. And they became like the thing that they treasured the most. Eventually, the dad bought the donut shop, sent his kids to elementary school. They opened up a noodle bar, did this shot, and then it just took off. The American dream. I mean, the best story I've ever heard. And that's the kind of thing that I fell in love with. I'm like, that's the kind of like the stories of people. Of overcoming stuff. That's why I started cooking, and I have to compete on Food Network in 2 weeks, which is so funny because I haven't cooked in a year and a half because I had a baby and took over a media company. But I think it's in there somewhere.
Because you gave that advice earlier, things definitely not do all at once. Those two things. And like then, walk and chew gum, sure, you can handle that one. Take over a media company, have a newborn, two things. Do one of those two things. Bring life into this world, please. We need we're going to need the people down the line to work in the restaurants and all these places. So please bring more humans into the world, but don't also start a media company at the exact same time. Understood. I think that's...
And then launch a massive food festival where all your friends are signing up to travel across the country to be at. And I have to really personally invite every single one of them and run a media company. My poor media company, thank God they rebuilt, but we have such a talented staff that I looked at them like a couple weeks ago and I said, well, good luck. All right, because I'm gone for the summer. I'm going to be doing Del Mar Wine and Food Festival.
Right, you're right. Hey, Drew Brees, what's going on? You want to do what? Pickleball tournament? Yeah, okay, because we only have 9,000 other events happening there. So it all comes full circle, right? It's like Drew Brees comes back to San Diego and is now part of professional pickleball.
Isn't that beautiful?
Because the Chargers left and they didn't want him anymore, so he went down to New Orleans.
Hey,
there's another great talent who left San Diego. Drew Brees.
Oh, you're just hurting me now. You're hurting me now, buddy. Pat, you're digging it in. I can feel that spork going right in my liver.
Yeah, well, look, I'm a Giants fan, and we did give you Phillip Rivers, and you had lots of joy and almost a playoff win with him. So I think that worked out well between the Giants and the Chargers.
I don't miss Eli Manning. I get Eli Manning. My entire life was the bane of my existence as a Chargers fan. I had a Chargers ring when I was 4 years old. And the way that the NFL works, it's like, look, the worst team gets the best player. That's how parity sticks. You can't beat the system. Everybody buys in. It's a good communal, like Lenin and Stalingrad, all that kind of stuff. We all just help build each other better. And then when he stood on stage and pouted at us and said that him and his dad were going elsewhere, I was like the single most injurious thing to my emotions. I really should have a more rich life or fully developed emotional stratosphere, but that really hurt me at that time.
It
and
hurts.
I could not root for Eli Manning and your team for a very, very long time. I have come around since my wife is from New York. I am now a Giants fan. So,
well, thank you. That's good because your team didn't want to be there. Why would Eli want to be there? He saw the future, but now maybe he wants to be there like everybody else.
Honestly,
wants to be in San Diego now. Now they want to be in San Diego. Yes. The Mannings never would make that deal now. And funny enough, we have a special guest joining us right now, Eli Manning. Eli. Now, Eli doesn't want to come on camera. So anyway, but he did say he told them beforehand, don't draft me. And they did it anyway. So
I know what he said. Well, and he said, look, I know Troy Johnson lives in that city. And I'm just not going there.
Yeah. You should have him on Guy's grocery games and just make him do ridiculous things where he'll pull a hammy and you could be like, oh, I'm just so sorry. And you didn't win. Finally, you didn't win, Eli. So
and he kept on winning. I know.
Yeah. All he would do is go get hot sauce, right? Because he's like sponsored by that hot sauce. That is not a sponsor of this program. So they will not get a shout out.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's, you were mentioning how like all of a sudden you're there and doing the pilot for Guy's grocery games, but your first show canceled. How did they decide that this was going to be something else for you? How did you get the call, or where were you when you were like, you're getting another shot because you're they love you on Food Network. The one thing didn't work out, but that must have felt pretty great to say, I'm getting another shot at this thing.
It was fantastic. I mean, look, I could tell you, I'll run through this, and as you've seen, I don't run through anything very fast. But like, oh god, here comes another 40-minute answer.
Hey, go for it.
So I was writing about food for this fancy magazine, and I got a little blurb on the interwebs that said Food Network's looking for a host. And I said I was done with TV because my other TV show had been canceled because of the economy. And I'm like, look, man, I'm done with that. I had a pregame show for the San Diego Padres for 2 years. I was done with TV. And so I can be a writer. I'm an editor. I'm good at that. And I saw this questionnaire. I'm like, all right, I'm going to fill this thing out, and I'm just not going to backspace. I'm going to give myself 20 minutes. I'm not going to rethink anything. I'm just going to fill it out as raw and honest as I possibly can. And one of the questions was, how do you cook? And I'm like, I cook like a college kid screws with way too much energy and not enough skill. And just I kept on going off and going.
Accurate. That is accurate.
I did it, and they called me. The production company called me. They're like, look, man, we never call anybody, but when you made us laugh, so you fill out a thing. So I did this whole monologue. You can still see it on the internet somewhere. I had this whole monologue audition tape that was like, I was born in a walk-in refrigerator of a 3-star Michelin restaurant. I was breastfed by Wolfgang Puck. I was, I'm like, that's a complete lie. I was raised by a woman who owned a microwave. That was her greatest skill.
Yeah.
And they called. They gave me my own.
Were you
show.
raised by Wolfgang? Yeah, I mean, he did breastfeed.
Yes.
So there you go.
Of the Wolf clan. Yes.
Yeah.
So they gave me my own show, and they pictured me as the writer, right? Like they wanted me to be Bourdain, and I was like, I'm not Bourdain. I'm like, I don't have the ghosts and the demons and the depth. To be quite honest with you, I'm more of a humor writer. And I don't have the cooking chops. I mean, he was a real deal chef. But so we did this show for a year, and it got canceled. But when it got canceled, they called me and they were like, we're done with you. And I was like, okay, well, thank you very much for giving me a shot. I appreciate it. You're good people. Thanks. See ya. I'll figure out my life. And my buddy called me about 3 weeks later, and he goes, have you been watching your ratings? I go, why would I watch my ratings? I'm like, I'm done, man. I have a good cry. I went swimming in a pool, held myself underwater I don't make light of near-death experience, but you're at that moment where you're in the pool underwater, you're just trying to tune everything out.
Yeah.
And so I'm done with that. And he goes, you're actually second on the network on Friday nights behind Guy Fieri. I'm like, no way. He's like, you ever watch Twitter with your show? I'm like, no, I don't watch Twitter with my show. And he goes, people quote your lines all the time. And so, because I would say stuff, and I kind of feel bad about this one, to be quite honest with you, but I would say stuff like, the only thing that would make this better is if Nickelback broke up every time you ate it, we would have fun. We were just having fun. And I got a poetry degree and it worked, I guess, so instead of saying this burger's rich, I'm like, this thing is like eating Morgan Freeman's voice, and
I'm surprised it didn't launch a whole new generation of poetry majors at liberal arts colleges across the country.
Shocking, right? Shocking.
Yeah.
Okay. The guy got one season of one show on Food Network and then got canned. So anyways, they called me back and they were like, look, man, we never call anybody back. He's like, but you've kind of become a cult hit, your show has, when we try to kill you on Friday Nights Late. Friday Nights Late apparently are my people. There's like Cheeto eaters of the world, or they get somebody's got like a snack chip on their shirt. That's my people, so
people at the grease trucks at universities across the U.S. that are just watching it on their phones while they're ordering their 6 cheeseburger thing with falafel on it and fries on the thing.
With falafel on it for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the grease is coming through the bag of their life, and that and they call me back, and when they called, I mean, I was stoked. I didn't know if this was going to last, and for the first few years of Guy's Grocery Games, I was on half the episodes. It's evolved now. He has way more shows, and I'm probably on 10, 15. They're actually starting to book me on a lot more shows now. Alex versus America. I'm actually going. I was a judge on that last season. Beachside Brawl, I was a judge on that one. Super Chef Grudge Match, I was a judge on that. So they're kind of letting me, which is really nice. They're letting me kind of spread my wings beyond Grocery Games, which Grocery Games I owe everything to now. But that I didn't know that would last 10 years, 10, 11 years. I thought they were done with me, and they brought me back and gave me a second shot, resuscitated a little oxygen into my career, and they've been good enough to not kick me off the network yet. And we'll see after this podcast.
And when you get canned on the Food Network, I think like they would physically do that, like put you in a human-sized like tomato can and just hermetically seal it on TV because they're just like,
Yeah, but I would somehow form botulism myself because I'm that kind of person. Like,
you'd ruin the whole batch. Yeah.
So yeah, that was. I mean, and it's been great, man. I mean, I love telling stories about food, and you go on to some of these shows, and you see the real people behind the competitors. It's hard because we have to say something negative, and you have to say something positive about it. Every dish, you have to find it. Otherwise, there's no drama.
Yeah.
And
what are the stakes? They say, right? It's like I've thought I've had good ideas for shows, and people are like, I just don't see the stakes. They're like, oh,
yeah, I know.
Like I do. They're like, nah, America won't. So it's goodbye. Dream.
And the one thing about that show too is the camaraderie, right? I mean, every crew as a TV, this as a production, you're in production, you're on a stage doing, auctioneering, that you have to have a good team. If you don't have a good team, like everything sucks the air out of the room. I mean, you just feel that black cloud infuse every single inch of the store, right? And Guy is, he will keep that mood light. He keeps it good. If anybody's, kind of a negative Nancy in the crew, that the person won't last. And so we laugh, man. We the whole, like, all the people that are coming out and joining us for the festival, like Aaron May, Bo McMillan, Artie Sequeira, Antonio LaFaso. I think Michael Voltaggio, we're talking with him right now. He's a good friend of mine. I just judge with him. He's like, find me something cool and I'm in. So he may or may not. Everybody's listening. Don't bank on that one. You
mentioned Dream Team. You said the Guy thing turns out to be a dream team, and that's how it works. And that's how the Del Mar Wine and Food Festival is a total dream team that you've put together. You're the management team of this, the ownership team, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Ernie Hahn is one of our partners. He put on U2's first ever world tour at the sports arena in San Diego. He's been throwing some of the biggest concerts and events in San Diego for a long, long time. And he's kind of like the unofficial mayor of San Diego. Everybody knows him. Everybody surfed with Ernie Hahn. Everybody wants to have a beer.
Ernie would go. He's like Eddie Akai of San Diego.
He is.
Ernie would go.
He's the Duke, so he he's told me some funny stories. Britney Spears he put on. Anyways, he's a lifelong San Diegan too. And the whole thing, he's one of the partners on the people that own the Surf Sports Park, our partners, our buddy Chris Finn, who ran San Diego Bay Wine and Food Festival. He's with us as well. Brilliant mind in terms of putting everything together, and then you get Drew Brees, you get Rob Machado, the Wave. One of the coolest things about San Diego right now is the Wave FC. Wave FC is is the women's soccer professional team, and they are filling the stadiums. You've never seen such a cool crowd. I have an 11-year-old or 12-year-old daughter, and you see that crowd when they play. Alex Morgan is on the field. Alex Morgan's be playing for the World Cup, right? Right as this is released, right? Yeah. And you see that team, and you see all those young women. I mean, everybody, men, women, whatever. But especially as a father of a daughter, you see those young women and being like, God, we are badasses, and they're just stoked. Women's sports hasn't had something like that in a long, long time. It's really just one of the coolest things happening in the city, and they're going to host the opening party of the festival itself. So they are, I mean, just their inspiration to us. We're involving everybody. I mean, a surf day with Rob Machado, where we're probably going to do either like a little surf competition or a beach or beach cleanup, and then have some bites at like a local restaurant right nearby. That's awesome, man.
I should fly out there just to get on stage for one opportunity we could do folks, we could do chef dinners in your home all day long, but we are going to have a surfing opportunity with Rob Machado right now. So who's in for $20,000?
Yes. Right? I just found our auctioneer. That was the one piece of the puzzle we were missing. All right.
So because there is a charity involved in this. This is a food festival with the soul. This is a party with purpose, very overused term. But tell me about the charity element to this as well, because this is, you're not just getting the best food and wine. You're not just there's going to be musical experiences, I'm sure, with all the music involved with you guys. But there's a soul to this thing. There's the fact that San Diego is busting at the seams and beautiful right now. And people want to be there more than they have in a long time. But there's this other part of San Diego where we're also saying there's folks that are living on the margins. There's the most vulnerable folks out there that need a meal, and we're going to provide that for them. So tell me about all that.
And this is one of the most, whenever you get into food, one of the things that drives you mad once you start studying it is food waste. In 2019, I always say this, 2019, we wasted enough food in America to fill the Empire State Building 91 times. 91 Empire State Buildings filled to the brim with wasted food. And we're all part of it. It is a big building. We're all part of it. And then you look at the hunger stats, and the people that are facing do not know where their next meal comes from. It's maddening, and
some of these people these are families that are working, but because things are so expensive, 2 days a week, they need to go to the food bank. These are facts.
Yeah, this is not, the false image of somebody who goes to a food bank or needs some food assistance, is that, it's somebody who's not working, is out of work, that is really down on their luck. No, these are people that are working and really, trying to take care of their family the best that they can, but have not been able to find that opportunity where they can really afford to live where they're at. And in a city like San Diego, we need people, like we need teachers. We need, there's jobs that may not pay a ton of money, but we need that infrastructure. We need those brains. We need those people that really work and operate a city. The point being about food waste is that Feeding San Diego is our charitable partner, and they do. I've done a lot of work with them over the years. In fact, when I went on Guy's grocery game, Guy's ultimate trivia night. It was a food trivia night against a couple of famous chefs and my wife and I, who knows nothing about food, but somehow blacked out and answered everything right. She's a beautiful human being. She's not food is not her thing. But we won that and won $10,000 for Feeding San Diego. What they do is they take food, which is perfectly good food. I mean, it's past its date by like a day, or it's coming up on its date. But as we know in food, the food industry, by dates, sell by dates. Food is great sometimes weeks or months or whatever it may be after that, and they get food that's before the date as well. They save that food that would otherwise go to a landfill, perfectly good healthy food, and they give healthy nutritious meals to San Diegans at risk for hunger. So they're both solving food waste, that needless food waste. Perfectly great food, and getting it to the people in need. And it's not just empty calories, it's actually nutritious, good, healthy meals. So we're going to be working with them throughout the festival. We're going to have a day where, everybody brings food to them, and there's going to be multiple ways that you could donate along the way to raise money for those guys.
Amazing. And for those, so we're solving hunger issues. And for those who were confused by Anchorman, it is officially San Diegans. Look at that. So there's the mystery is gone there as well. So we're solving all kinds of problems at this festival. So we've been talking about some of the talent that's going to be there. So if you wouldn't mind being self-serving, because they are the sponsor of this show, the Hombres Aaron and Paul. Aaron and Paul and Brian. You never trust a guy with two first names unless he's serving you mezcal, folks. That's it. Then you can absolutely trust him. And I bet Cranston is the first name now, because these guys are so popuar. There's definitely babies out there named Cranston because these guys from Breaking Bad have been so popular.
Yeah, my son is Heisenberg, but yeah.
That is gorgeous. Heisenberg Johnson. That is it sounds like a nickname, but I love it. I think you are a trailblazer in many ways.
He's doomed, but yes, it's going to be fun.
So Aaron and Brian are both going to be there. Is there going to be like a signature Dos Hombres, like Baja cocktail or something really cool like that?
Are you kidding me? As somebody who, I just love both of their style. That was one of my favorite TV shows of all time. When we found out that we were going to be doing this event, I love all my chef friends, and I'm so happy that Drew Brees is amazing, Robert, whatever. I'm so excited. This is the one that I'm like, dude. Brian Cranston and Aaron Paul are going to bring their mezcal. We're doing a dinner. We're doing a pairing dinner. They're basically the chefs are using Dos Hombres mezcal to create these signature dishes. Are you freezing or no? I'm so sorry. Should I start that over?
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm here. So sorry about that. Edit team, just cut me out of that part. But yes, continue on with that story.
Okay, gotcha. So, this is the one that I geek out on. right? I mean, as a pop culture, fan, I mean, that was one of my favorite shows of all time. I mean, when I heard that they were both coming down and they were actually going to be at the dinner, and that matters. Like, there are brands that have famous people behind them, and if they're not there, it doesn't mean as much. And I realize it's hard. Everybody has a life to do, and everybody's biting at their time. Like, please give me your time here. That's what I see with celebrities all the time. They're like, minutes are their most precious, commodity. So, I mean, we're so damn grateful these guys are going to be here. But what we're going to do is we're going to have two of the top Baja chefs from Valle de Guadalupe and down in Ensenada. They're coming up to cook with my friend from Food Network, Bo McMillan, and Kelly Crossan, who's the executive chef at the Lodge at Torrey Pines, which is this classic, great hunting lodge right over the cliffs of the ocean. Yeah. That's where the U.S. Open is held all the time. So the Torrey Pines golf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, famous. They got this hunting lodge there, and we're going to be doing a mezcal cooking dinner paired with the mezcal and everything else. So you got the best chefs in Baja, Bo McMillan from TV, the Dos Hombres guys, Kelly Crossan at her hunting lodge at the Lodge at Torrey Pines, doing this massive dinner. It's ridiculous. It's a bucket list.
So there's got to be. So then on that note, there's got to be a VIP ticket I can buy for this, right?
Yeah, there's going to be VIP and regular tickets all along. You know, the funny thing is, I don't really know because I'm just the content guy. I'm the guy that's selling all the stories and everything else. Somebody's asked me like, oh, yeah, well, how much is the VIP? I'm like, yeah, well, you can ask Chris or the website for that one because I'm not very good at that. Yeah. But yes, there's a VIP. There's definitely VIP tickets. There's regular tickets. For the VIP for the actual festival, it's going to be, I know it's going to be $475. We're going to have a big tent with a lot of our chefs that have a big national spotlight. They're going to be back there doing some stuff, and some of the better chefs in San Diego are going to be doing, bone marrow luges, caviar, caviar bumps, a few other fun things, and food. Have fun with your food, play with it a little bit, but in a really, there's going to be one husband and wife team in San Diego. They do dry age bone marrow. I've heard of dry age. I mean, I've had tons of dry age steaks. It's one of the best ways to make a great steak. I've never seen anybody do dry age bone marrow. It will change your life. Oh my! I believe it will. It is so good.
Another reason to come out.
Yes.
All right. So we've been talking about a bunch of these names, and Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees he's coming back to you. He's coming back to San Diego finally after all these years to get down on one knee, apologize to you, and help raise money for feeding San Diego via a celebrity pickleball tournament. Like, why not a flag football tournament on the beach? But it's like everyone's doing pickleball.
It's because the earth is really just is a little thing on top of a pickleball court now. Yeah. Pickleball runs the world. It used to be peace, love, and unity. Now it's pickleball. Right. It's the biggest
pickleball love and unity. They just replaced the P.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, pickleball was what they played at Woodstock. Honestly, it's so massive. I've never played. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I play all the time. I haven't played at all. My wife is texting.
Are you going to play in this tournament? I
am going to play badly in this tournament. The interesting thing is that I was like borderline top, probably 100 in the country in tennis.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was a great hope to go pro from San Diego. I was number one in the city by the time I quit. It was I can really play. I can still hit 30 years later. I haven't swung a racket more than 10 times in 30 years. And I can still hit a tennis serve 100 miles an hour and I make it in. But anyways, I've never played, so I cannot wait to play. It's going to be me, Drew Brees. I don't know if Rob Machado's going to do it. We're going to have a bunch of different celebrity chefs, celebrities around San Diego, whether they be athletes or TV people, actors. A lot of people have moved down to San Diego, or they have a part-time home where they're like, okay, look, I need to be up in LA for production, which is going to change because San Diego Magazine's got to change all that. We're going to create we're going to become the new San Diego Wood. That's what
San Diego Wood.
San Diego. Which is
what Ron Burgundy was really trying to say.
Really?
San Diego Wood.
San Diego Wood. That's not even Spanish. I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, that event is going to be fantastic because it's really it has a stadium court, right? So you get to watch. You can kind of like you're tiered up. You're going to have food and drink and all the great wineries and all the great chefs in San Diego. It's going to be just like a microcosm of the main grand tasting, that happens on the 9th and 10th. Except for it's going to be focused around this pickleball, and you're going to watch Antonio LaFaso try to kick Drew Brees' ass at pickleball. It's going to be great. And you know what it is? Even if you suck, these people have personalities and thrive at sucking. Yeah, they thrive at it. And hopefully somebody loses their stuff. I'm hoping somebody gets really mad and competitive and throws their racket, which used to be me.
That'll happen.
Yeah, that'll definitely happen.
Yeah. That'll definitely happen. You were talking before about women's professional soccer blowing up, and it is. And pro pickleball is the thing. I heard Mark Lazary, who just recently sold the Milwaukee Bucks. He's like, well, I'm kind of into these other sports, and he's like, my pickleball team I bought for $100,000, and it's worth like a couple million. Like, the guy is just. It's not just that he's. Everything he touches is turning into gold. It's like these are huge sports where everybody's playing, and everybody can be an influencer or a celebrity these days if you have the right social media following, or you can build it. And if you do it through pickleball, or I love that the women's professional soccer league is really, really picking up steam across the country.
But
pickleball, it's like, get me a professional pickleball team.
Yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, San Diego, every 5 minutes, a tennis court goes up in flames and it turns into a pickleball court. It's actually, we did a story in San Diego Magazine about the war. It's a war between people who love tennis and people who love pickleball. And it's a massive controversy, but it's just, I mean, look, it shrinks the court. It gets you all close together. It's a more social event at that point anyways. You're right there. It's kind of like in between Foursquare and tennis. You're right on top of one another. You got to have lightning fast reflexes and everything else. Our partner Ernie Hahn in the festival, he plays every single day. I think he's like aiming for the senior tournament. If he hears me say senior tournament, he's going to kill me.
The Champions League.
The Champions League. That's what it is. Yeah. So I mean, it's and then for us, I mean, just seeing all these alternative sports in San Diego, and across the country, not alternative sports. Like women's soccer is not an alternative sport. It just never got the due that it should. Right. It never got. It was just men's this, men's that. And you look at like it's the Wave FC who's in San Diego. You see every single time they play a game, it's packed in the new stadium, Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego that they just built, replaced Jack Murphy Stadium or Qualcomm, whatever, depending on how old you are. I remember it's Jack Murphy. It's a beautiful new open air stadium. We got a rugby team there, which people show up for. We have the Wave FC, and look, you've got Alex Morgan at World Cup winners. You got girls in men and women, but especially as a father, you look at like young girls in that stadium, just jacked, just so proud, and so like I can do this. It's such an inspiration for the city, and I mean. God, these women are on the national stage, and you talk about like Alex Morgan and a few of the players that are part of the Wave FC, like they were part of getting equal pay for the U.S. women's national team with men. I mean, not only great athletes, great ambassadors, but I mean, really like history makers for social policy and economic policy, with professional sports. I mean, it's a cool time, and it's a cool new development and new branches of professional spectator sports, especially in San Diego, especially because we lost the Chargers, we lost Drew Brees, we lost all these things. We lost the Clippers. We just continually lost a lot of things for decades, and now we're getting it all back.
It's all coming back to San Diego. And that's it. Fans and those who are like, how do I get into a professional sports game? Well, find a city like a St. Louis or somebody who's lost a team recently, or Oakland, and build yourself a professional pickleball and professional women's soccer team there. And the next thing you know, and give them a stadium, give them a proper playing surface. Like the MLS was never doing really well until they started building soccer-specific stadiums. Like the Metro Stars. It's like Jack Murphy Stadium or Qualcomm. It's like the Metro Stars or the Red Bulls, depending on how old you are. But the Red Bulls, as they are now, used to play at MetLife Stadium. 80,000 seats for a soccer game. That's not happening unless you have Arsenal versus Man U. Like, it's not happening.
And that's why in San Diego, we just built that Snapdragon Stadium, and they just announced that MLS is coming to San Diego, and they're going to play at Snapdragon. So we're getting.
Yeah.
I love all the alternative sports now. I do hope we get the NBA back. Come on, I want.
There's no doubt the NBA is going to expand, and there's no doubt that San Diego and like Nashville wouldn't be those first two cities, or Austin, right? Austin's, you guys, like Nashville, Austin, San Diego, those are the places you want to be right now.
I know.
And New York. I'm in New York. We're open for business, folks. Just come on in.
You guys will always be open for business. All the business just kind of floats downhill or uphill, depending on how you look at the geography of New York. But all that business eventually goes to you guys. It's just that now we are actually have satellite businesses too.
Yeah.
And we. Well, I was going to say we fully employ the Sun. You keep the Sun on more of a hybrid employment. We
have it now. We've got a bit of a monopoly on it over here on the East Coast for 10 weeks. 10 weeks.
That San Diego, it pisses me off so much. I mean, look, we don't pay the rent that we pay here and struggle to survive based on the cost of living to have no sun. For the month of May, San Diego was the cloudiest place in the Western United States, except for one town, not Portland, one small town in Alaska. I'm like, what?
Oh, that's not fair.
Anyways, but the sun's back, and the sun's going to be here. And I will say this about the Double Wine Food Festival, not just pimp out our stuff. The reason why we put it in September, because locals know this, September, October is the absolute best time to be in San Diego.
It's local summer.
It's exactly. Our summer runs from like July to October 31st. And then November starts to get a little bit windy, a little bit colder. It dips down to like 65,
Yeah. So then tell us, before we have yet another technical difficulty and I have to go onto an iPad or something next. And thank you for being patient with our technical difficulties here. But how do we find out more about the festival, get those VIP tickets that you mentioned, and the dates? This is September 8th through 10th, somewhere around there, right? What are the exact dates?
The whole week is going to be September 6th through the 11th. The grand tasting is the 9th and the 10th. It's a 2-day Saturday and Sunday. On that, that grass, it's like Coachella by the sea. You can stand on it. That's where the Wave FC practices. It's one of the best, even perfect lawns on the West Coast. So it's like the 6th through 10th is going to be those special dinners, like Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul, Dos Hombres, with the best Baja chefs. That's going to be the Friday. That's the 8th.
Tasting dinner. Oh, I have to be there for that. Man.
On one of a hunting lodge overlooking a cliff that drops 300 feet onto the West Coast surf of Black's Beach, which is a nude beach, by the way.
Yes,
it is.
Bring the binoculars.
Yes, I've definitely been down there, and it's usually just elder men of and that's always quite disappointing for me. Anyway,
maybe leave the binoculars at home.
Okay, yes, leave the binoculars home. But then, so 6th to the 11th is the entire festival. The grand tasting is the 9th and the 10th. So that's the one where really like all of the food scene that we're like lifting up and we're handpicking some of these people that are just made cool, have been icons. And it's not just the high-end chefs. We have a lot of the high-end chefs that are going to be there, but it's also like classic Mexican joints. Like there's an Italian deli that's a cornerstone of Little Italy that I'm working on right now. And I've sent her so many different scenarios of how we can get her involved. And she's like, I don't usually get invited to these. I'm like, because we're building something different. We're building something where you build the entire city. I want street food there. I want the vendors. And we're trying to get people from Convoy, which is our Pan-Asian cultural district, which has some of the best Pan-Asian cuisines, Vietnamese and Thai and Korean and everything else, bibimbap and curries. And it's, we're getting some of those people there. We're getting, it's just going to be a great mix of, the people that went to CIA and worked with Daniel Boulud, and then the people that learned to cook from their nonna, and open up a tiny little honest shop and serves a neighborhood. And we're going to put them all in the same grass, man. It's going to be great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, friends, you must.
Okay. You asked me where.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. You asked me where you can find out more information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
At Del Mar Fest on it. Yeah. Social media, Instagram is at Del Mar Fest, and then delmar.wine is the website where you can buy all the tickets.
Del Mar, all one word, .wine. Delmar.wine is where you can go to buy your tickets, and Del Mar Fest on your social media channels, whichever one you subscribe to, and get on the Instagram if you're not. And if you trust TikTok, get on TikTok, because that's where the young people are. That's how you be an influencer.
And our state secrets. Yeah.
Give your credit card number away while you buy tickets to Del Mar Wine and Food Festival, and give your credit card details to somebody halfway around the world as well. Not even meaning to, once you go on TikTok. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But speaking of being there, you want to eat, drink, and be in San Diego for the Del Mar Wine and Food Festival. Troy Johnson, thank you for your time and your patience. It's been great. Yeah. And we appreciate it. And friends, we will see you next time on Festival Pass Stories. Troy, see you in San Diego.
See you, brother.
This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.